What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking NFL picks, props, bets, everything you want for the NFL slate this weekend. Also, a little NBA. And my friend, Jeff Johnson, is joining us today from Bleacher Report, MSG Network's new podcast, Jeff J Says. What's up, JJ?
What's going on, Moxie? How you doing?
I'm doing so good. It's so good to see you. Tell me first about your podcast, because I've been seeing you posting clips. It's pop culture, it's sports, it's everything New York, I would assume.
Yeah. So it's after my namesake. It's the Jeff J Says YouTube channel. My byline is sports culture commentary. That's like my log line and whatnot. And what I do is I'm heavy on NBA right now because that's one of my main passions. But I'm talking about the world of sports, mixing in some betting, and the game within the game, which is the fashion, the storylines that the fans are talking about. This is what is another one of my passions and something that I feel like a lot of people are talking about on social and then with each other in the real world. So I want to bring that all together using my unique personality to just have conversation. And we've had a lot of great conversation, stuff that's kind of been timely given with the in-season tournament and even Wembanyama's appearance last night in the Garden. So it's been a lot. It's been really fun. I love being able to have something that I can dictate and go on my own, like you have right here with this, and just be able to inject my own personality into a show. So I'm really loving it.
Jeff and I work together at MSG Networks, and I can tell you he has a lot of personality. So this is definitely a show that you want to tune in for. Jeff, you already hit on a couple things. One, I am like, you're big on the NBA. I'm obviously an NFL girl. I am like knee deep midway into the season. What is the in-season tournament that they have just added to the NBA? Like, one, I don't understand like really what it is. How does it affect the season? How does it affect betting?
Right. So I'll tell you, the in-season tournament, if you're a soccer fan, then you kind of understand the concept of tournaments within the tournaments. And I can tell you, even being an American sports fan and then becoming a soccer fan and then understanding that you play a regular season within your league, then you play a separate competition against all levels of your sport in your country. Then you play against other countries, and that's what the Champions League is. You play against other countries' best clubs that qualify to be the kings of Europe. Then you have it would be as if the NFL, arena football, and the CFL played in a tournament to see who was the best team in North America. That's kind of what the concept of European football competitions are. With the in-season tournament, right now, it's just a way for the NBA to generate interest in the regular season and make these early games matter. The winner's getting, I think everybody gets a $500,000 cash prize. I was like, they're not going to play hard for $500. That's like, they made that in 5 minutes. But they, $500,000 each player gets to win. And it's the regular season games. They designate certain regular season games as group competition. And those happen on Tuesdays and Fridays. So on Friday, there's going to be group play. So each team, I believe there's groups of 5. So you play each team once. The winner of the groups.
And so the groups are not like your division or conference. It's interesting.
They're made within they're within your conference, but they're 3 groups of 5 within your conference. And the winner of the group goes to the knockout round. You'll have there's 4 groups, A, B, C, and D. Each group has a group winner. Those group winners go to the knockout round along with the second place team after the group winners in each conference. So let's say the Bucks, the Celtics, and I can't think of the guy. I apologize off the top of my head, but let's say the Bucks, Celtics, and the Cavs win their groups in the East. Whoever has the next best record of the teams remaining also qualify as a wild card. So I could convert it to football, like the wild card. So those 8 teams now compete in an NCAA March Madness style competition. And the winner and the final 2 games. The interesting part about this tournament is the final game, the championship game, is the only game that does not count as a regular season game. So
it's just a completely separate game. Interesting.
Right. So the final 2 teams will essentially play 83 games this season.
Wow. Okay, so it's a tournament within the larger tournament because
Right.
obviously the NBA playoffs is still happening in the same way, and then we've got
Right.
this added thing. So I heard you talking about on your podcast, Jeff J says on YouTube. By the way, go ahead and check that out. There was something that you thought would make it more interesting.
Yes. Yes. I like to inject positive chaos into sports.
I know.
To try to galaxy brain to think about what would make this in-season tournament actually relevant and matter to the teams. Because right now, the top level players, $500,000 would be good. I don't think anybody in this world would like scoff at $500,000.
Not a lot of
Not a lot of people, right? Enough people would say, especially if you're player number 12 on a 15-man roster, I need that $500,000.
Yes.
But what would actually motivate players and teams
Yeah.
to take this in-season tournament seriously and give it stakes for the postseason? So my idea was that regardless of where you finish in the regular season, winning the NBA in-season tournament would give you a tiebreaker depending on what your record is at the end of the year to get into the playoffs. So if you finish 11 through 15 within your conference, usually that means you missed the playoffs, you missed the play-in entirely, and you're going into the lottery. If you win the NBA Cup, which is what they should be calling it eventually, somebody's going to have to sponsor it, I guess, whatever. If you win the NBA Cup and you finish as a lottery team, you automatically get the 10th seed. So you're going to be the last team in the play-in. And if you're the 10th in the play-in and you didn't win the cup, oh, well, too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
If you finish in a play-in position, which would be seeds 7 through 10, and you win the in-season tournament, you automatically get the 7th seed, which means you would have home court throughout the play-in and 2 chances to make the playoffs. If you finish 2nd through 6th, and which is a guaranteed play-off spot, you would get home court advantage throughout your conference finals. So that means if you were to face the number 1 seed and you were 6th, you got home court instead of them.
Well, that's,
and if you're the number
a lot
one,
of incentive.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're the number 1 overall, then you get home court throughout the entire playoffs, guaranteed, even if the other conference's number 1 has a better record than you. That way, everybody has an incentive to play. So if I'm the Celtics, I need to win this cup so that if the Bucks or the Cavs or a dark horse team can surge up against us in the standings, we have the tiebreaker to guarantee that the road to the NBA playoffs and the finals and at least the conference finals is gonna go through Boston. And this also would eliminate the positioning that goes on towards the end of the season when people when teams try to avoid each other and try to fall in different positions. If you have the cup, you already know you have that playoff position. So now I think it'll make the seeding more honest. So I just thought that was a real chaotic and fun way to make the in-season tournament matter.
I agree because with the way that it is right now, you got someone like Steph Curry and like LeBron. Do they really care about $500,000? Probably not. I mean, I think people still want to win because they are competitors, clearly, at the top of their game. But yeah, that level of chaos would just make it a lot more fun. And I do think that kind of rivals more what they do in like European soccer, where there really is a tournament that matters inside. And
they care about every tournament. It doesn't matter. They play 3 or 4 depending on how good your team is. And think about if you were like, NFL doesn't really have a developmental league. But imagine if Ultimate Chaos, right? Imagine if Georgia football was in a tournament with NFL teams and the winner got something amazing. And they were just playing for pride. That's how it is over in like England and France and all that. And that's been embedded in their culture, in their sports culture for generations. So I think this is going to take a while to catch on. Yeah. But people were saying the same thing about the play-in. There were detractors about the play-in. And now we look forward to the play-in.
Yes. And I think that's some of the best ball that you see is the play-in because they are just desperate to get in to the playoffs. Jeff, you are like Mr. Madison Square Garden, like Knicks through and through. I heard that you were at the game last night. Wemby's debut at the Garden. Knicks won 126-105. Wemby was 14, 9, and 2 points, rebounds, assists, 0 of 4 from 3. What'd you think of his debut last night?
It underwhelmed. It
Ooh.
underwhelmed, and I'm kind of glad that it did underwhelm as a Knicks fan, because we as Knicks fans have been tired of folks using Madison Square Garden as their personal concert tour to
Steph
go
Curry.
off and have an awesome game. And then the narrative builds that Madison Square Garden isn't as protected as it once was.
Mm-hmm.
We've had back-to-back debuts in the Garden. We had James Harden Clipper debut and now Victor Wembanyama, and they both got sent packing by 20 plus points. I think you're seeing a mood change within the Garden that started from a few years ago. The other aspect of this is the emergence of Mitchell Robinson. Shout out to my guy Sean with a W, who came on my show and called it that. He said it, I quote, Mitch is going to put Vic's skinny little behind in a basket because he hasn't seen that level of physicality before. And the Knicks are one of the last vestiges of the physical NBA. They're almost like a throwback where they play with the finesse and the style and they have their own offense, but they are going to punish you. He was 0 for 6 head-to-head against Mitchell Robinson. Victor Wembanyama was. And you could tell he was shooting air balls. He just seemed out of sorts because Mitchell Robinson is that dude. He's a guy who at one point in the season, this early season, had more offensive rebounds than whole NBA teams.
Wow.
Offensive rebound percentage, total offensive rebounds, whatever metric you want. This is how dominant he's been. And it's not exaggerated or hyperbole to say he has been playing at an all NBA level. He has been playing as one of the best big men centers in the league throughout these first games. And I'm glad that he was able to do it on national TV because we know how exposure can bring more eyes to stuff that a lot of people who actually watch the games already know. So I'm glad he's getting that recognition. But it was a fun atmosphere in there. He had a lot of support. Like New York is an international city.
Yes.
I'm telling you, France was in the building. I haven't seen that much French people in the Garden in a very long time. You may see it during the holiday seasons because when people visit New York, you do all the New York things. Right. But the Spurs are also one of the preeminent internationally supported teams in the league. So they're going to have an eclectic group of fans.
Tony Parker for a long time.
Right. So I could understand why French people would claim like that's not my team. But you could tell the funny thing about the mood in the Garden is, we don't want the Spurs to win. But if he went off and had a great debut and the Spurs lost, that's a win-win for everybody. Yeah. People pay a lot of money for them tickets and you want to see a show. So when he's stinking it up, you got the Spurs fans like, what's happening? And the Knicks fans like, this is the guy that you've been talking to us about? This is probably the one game all season I'm coming to, and you stinking it up, Vic? Come on now.
Come on. And you know what? You and I obviously worked at MSG together. We talked about a lot of Knicks games, a lot of different betting angles. And there were certain players where you'd be like, this guy goes off at the Garden, from opposing teams. And so you might bet they're over on something. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And then you had Steph Curry break the 3-point record at the Garden. But to your point about Knicks fans, everybody wanted that for Steph Curry that day, and everybody was proud to be a part of it. So let's say Wemby did go off. Of course, you want to protect the Garden and you want that kind of like old school defense that you're talking about. But if he did have a historic game, cool to be there as well, I think kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah. You want to be in the building for history. Yeah. And regardless, right? I just think Knicks fans are tired of the history being made at their team's expense. If you make history and your team loses, okay. You will also be in. There will be a footnote that you made history. Yeah. But your team lost, and that's all that matters. That's all that really matters to me. But I really don't like it when teams and players go off in the Garden where it seems like it doesn't happen anywhere else. Yeah. And I'm starting to see the tide change where the Garden is becoming hostile to outside performances. If you're not from New York, you're not going to go off anymore. And that's an identity that the Knicks need to establish. Use the Garden. Yeah. The Garden is synonymous with like Gotham in the Batman movies and the Batman comic books, how Gotham City is its own character. The Garden is its own character. And if you're not going to use it to your advantage, it could be to your disadvantage, depending on if that Garden, if that separate entity is going against you because you're not doing what you got to do. So it's imperative for the team to lock in and make the Garden an uncomfortable place for visitors.
I love that. I have to ask you about my team as well, the Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
They lost last night to the Nuggets, 108-105. I did not stay up for the whole thing. It didn't start until after 10 p.m. I fell asleep around the third quarter. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on Chris Paul joining the Warriors. Draymond Green came out recently talking about how good the chemistry is and how last year he didn't even want to come to work and get to your guys. And I'm like, bro, you started the bad chemistry. And look, I've long been a Jordan Poole apologist. Okay. I'll go ahead and admit that. And I think that clearly he contributed to this, but only one person sucker punched another guy. So you're talking about, I didn't even want to come to work last year. The chemistry was off and how great it is. Clearly the inclination there is that Jordan Poole left and now we're all happier. There's like no accountability from Draymond Green. Look, I do love Draymond Green, but he frustrates me a lot. So two part there. One, how do you feel about this team with Chris Paul? And then what do you think of the Draymond situation?
As far as Chris Paul, anytime you can add a player, anytime you can add a Hall of Famer to your team that's still effective, it's a win-win. I do think they did upgrade for their current team, getting Chris Paul instead of Jordan Poole, because it's all about that fourth quarter execution. First of all, you have Chris Paul, a still effective Chris Paul, coming off the bench, calmly collecting 10 plus dimes a game. Just because he's Chris Paul.
Right.
It's like based off of his name, he can walk onto any court and distribute like no one else in the league. So you have that. Then you also have one of the most cunning players in the league. Cunning, intelligent, clever, knows the game. And him and Draymond are like the Legion of Doom for referees, right? The Legion of Doom for referees. They're going to be on the referees' heads all season. And what really frightens me about the Warriors is, one, it looks like they've regained their form. Again, early on in the season, Steph Curry playing at an MVP level.
Clay
awakening, Kuminga awakening as well. It's just that system is humming right now. That system is humming. They lost to the champs. There's no dishonor in that, right?
3 points.
Right. There's no shame in that whatsoever. But what really scares me is the fourth quarter. You got Steph Curry, you got Chris Paul, you got Clay, you got Draymond, and whoever they want to play at the 5 down the stretch. What you're going to get is excellent execution and players who have seen literally every scenario you could possibly see. I've seen Chris Paul hit clutch shots. I've seen all of them make clutch plays. So when you add another player of that caliber to your team, it just raises your ceiling for postseason execution. This regular season is just a dress rehearsal and getting ready for the postseason. Postseason, Western Conference, good luck, because they're gonna be one of the toughest outs in the entire association.
All right. Well, I love that. We do have to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk some NFL bets with my guy, Jeff Johnson. Stick around. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets. Moving on to the NFL, let's preview the Week 10 slate. We can't get through everything, Jeff, but we're going to just kind of split it up, do a couple money line and spreads, couple totals, couple props, not unlike what we did together at the betting exchange. What is the first spread and or money line that you like for Week 10?
Yeah, I'm going with the Colts, and I'm taking the laying the 1.5. Yeah. You know, they're 3-1 against the spread in away games, and Germany is as away as you can get for away games. They're playing this at night. I think it's going to be one of those weird overseas games where a lot of things can happen, but I'm banking on them to be able to get it done. 2-1 in their last 3 games against the spread. Yeah. What really scares me a little bit about them is since Week 4, they've been alternating winning and losing against the spread, and of course, they won against the spread this last week. So the trend would say they might not cover, but their defense Okay, I'm trusting in the Colts defense. One, because I picked them up in fantasy. I'm streaming them in fantasy, so I do have a vested interest in them. And two, because I saw them demolish Bryce Young, 2 pick sixes, and they're going against Mac Jones, who's tied for the league in interceptions with 9, and 3 of those were pick sixes. So they've had their top 5 in INTs, 5 fumble recoveries, opportunistic defense. I think they're a team who can make it happen, and I'm only asking for 2 points. I'm only asking for them to win by 2. That's it. So I'm trusting the Colts to do that.
Well, and honestly, I feel like Minshew has done a really good job. He's one of the best backups in the league. He did not play well against his former team, the Jaguars, but other than that, he's been pretty explosive. So I like this. I like laying this. This is gross. I'm taking the Steelers -3. You talk about a good defense. You talk about your fantasy defense. All right, hand up. Steelers are mine. I'm taking the Steelers -3. And look, the Steelers are bad. They have no business with the 5-3 record that they have right now. I mean, they really just don't. But the defense is very good. And I think that the Packers are actually worse. The Packers have scored 20 points or fewer in 6 straight games. Jordan Love has really, I mean, he looked kind of good for the first couple games, and then it's been a struggle ever since. And like I said, the Steelers defense coming off a mini bye, they should really eat against a quarterback like Jordan Love, especially as you think about Christian Watson is banged up again, one of his favorite targets. The Steelers defense has a 9% adjusted sack rate, which is 6th highest in football. And the Packers only have 1 road victory this season. It was all the way back in week 1. So it's gross. It's kind of a cover your eyes special of like who's worse, but I'm definitely going to lay the 3 points with the Steelers. What's another spread that you're looking at?
Oh man, give me the Lions. Give me the Lions -3 against the Chargers. 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. I love their rush defense. They're 2nd in rush yards. They're 10th in pass yards. And this has push written all over it. I'm not even going to front. This has push written all over it. But I think that the Lions, I trust the Lions more to get me 4+ points than I do the Chargers to lose by a 2 or less.
Well, the Chargers charge. You can never try. You talk about 4th quarter teams. The Chargers are not a 4th quarter team. Right. They find ways to lose, and a lot of times that is a Justin Herbert interception late in the game. So you don't have to worry about a Chargers backdoor cover. The Chargers have some kind of big lead. That's one that I like this.
Yeah, I'm really high on the Lions too. I think that this is the year that they are putting it together. And if I'm that high on them, I need to put my money where my mouth is. So Lions -3, and especially before that line moves because somebody random is injured or we hear some news. I locked it in at -3, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? Some people, if you're nervous about the 3, you could buy the extra point if you want, get it down to 2.5 under the field goal. You might want to cover yours for this one because I know the Giants are your team, but I'm going to lay the 16.5 with the Cowboys. And I almost never lay double-digit favorites. But Jeff, Tommy DeVito is horrible. He's horrible. Okay, shout out to New Jersey. I love y'all. No shade that direction, but Tommy DeVito has absolutely no business being on a football field as a quarterback of the New York Giants. And look, the Cowboys already thrashed the G-Men 40-0 in week 1, almost entirely on defensive turnovers. They are not afraid to run up the score. They're not going to all of a sudden take it back in the last, quarter. They will shove it down your throat. The Giants also lose by an average of 18 points this season, whereas Dallas, when they win, right, because they're either blowing out or being blown out for the most part, but their margin of victory is 22 points. So I actually feel comfortable laying the 16.5. I don't know what the Giants can put together on offense.
Listen, I don't know what voodoo doll was being instrumented against them, used against them or whatever. But when you have a quarterback whose name sounds like they put it in a 70s sitcom, NBC sitcom name generator, right? New York sitcom name generator. A guy who probably thought, I'm never going to see the field for this season, who wasn't even allowed to throw against the Jets or against the game that they came in, wasn't even allowed to throw. Yeah. And then he has to go to Dallas. Mox, I'm going to tell you how bad this is. I'm down to the final 2 players in my Survivor League, week 10. Both me and my opponent has Dallas open. I know he's picking Dallas. I would never pick Dallas or in Survivor or anything, just because, especially if they're going against my team. It's a lot of people got knocked out when they lost to the Cardinals, right? Mm-hmm. So I just know Dallas will let you down in Survivor when you least expect it. I fully expect them to win this game, right? Oh. Where to the point where, just in case he's watching this, I don't know what I'm doing with Dallas, but I know what you're doing with Dallas. So I'm building my strategy around it. And I think it's the most sound strategy. Like, he picked the Browns and I picked the Saints because I knew he was going to pick the Browns. So I try to win the tournament, win the Survivor there. Of course, the Browns were sipping mimosas and chilling. Oh. And I was in a dogfight with the Bears in the dome up until the final play. But, still we move.
Still we move. All right, let's look at some totals. I'll go first on this one. I like Arizona and Atlanta to go over 44. Kyler Murray, Mighty Mouse, set to make his return for Arizona this week. And look, I think that Kyler Murray, even though he's going to be a little bit rusty, I do think he's going to be motivated after Josh Dobbs is kind of balling out. Then he gets traded, and then he has this incredible game with the Vikings. I feel like Kyler Murray is going to want to really make himself known and solidify, hey, by the way, I'm still that guy. I'm not just watching Call of Duty and whatnot. But again, I think he's a dual threat quarterback. He could beat you in the air, and he could beat you with his legs too. And if you look at this Falcons defense, they just let Josh Dobbs, the guy that had replaced Collier and then got traded in his ball out, score 3 touchdowns on them, 2 through the air, 1 rushing. James Conner also likely to return for Arizona, which is going to be huge for their running game. And the Cardinals have covered as a home dog this year in 3 or 4 games. I'm not taking them necessarily to win this game or cover, but I do think that they'll show up. So I like this over 44.
All right. You know how it is, Mark. Sometimes I got to do something against all conventional wisdom. And I could see this being 21-20. I could see it being a field goal palooza, right? I could see pick sixes and the defenses taking over. But I do think that the Bears have enough offense to carry this over the top. And who knows what Bryce Young and them are going to do. But I do think they have just enough offense to carry it over the top. And their defense will give up just enough for us to hit that number.
All right. Well, our next totals, we both got team totals. Texans coming off a crazy game with CJ Stroud, 5 passing touchdowns, over 400 yards. You like them over their team total at even money. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, this is like a little bit of a flyer for me, just because I think CJ Stroud, I'm hoping that he has a few more touchdowns left in him after he unloaded the clip.
He didn't cap out.
Like he unloaded the clip against the Bucks, and I'm hoping that he has a few more touchdowns in it. I know it's a tall task because the Bengals have been holding opponents under 21 in their last 4 games. But Houston, in their last 5, they've scored 30 plus 2 times. They've scored 20 and 19. And then the outliner being 13 to Carolina, which any given Sunday, right? So they've come close to this number even before Stroud was going off. I think they can eke it through. And at plus money, it was enticing enough for me to take it.
Well, and to your point, the Bengals might overlook this game a little bit. They just had the 49ers, then they had the Bills, 2 really big games, 2 built up games. They dominated those. I could see it potentially that maybe they let their foot off the gas a little bit, and then these Texans get a little sneaky.
Right. It becomes like an open run, like flag football for a little bit. That's all I need. Let them do the fake comeback and let them get that 21.
Just score over 20. Just score 21. I'm taking the Niners. And look, this is full transparency, a little bit of a heart play, but I also just believe in it. The Niners were first 5 games. I mean, it was Purdy for 30, at least 30 points in those 5 games. They dropped 3 in a row. Purdy he had 5 interceptions in the last 3 games after going 5 without having an interception at all. They all happened, in the 4th quarter or late in the 3rd quarter when the 49ers were down. No Trent Williams, no Deebo Samuel, some of those really key pieces to the offense. The defense has kind of struggled. I've heard that Steve Wilkes is coming down to the sideline this week. So we're happy about that, because if they're not doing that good, don't be up in the box. Come down on the team. We're used to Robert Saleh. We're used to DeMeco Ryans. We're used to guys that are in the trenches with the team. And so hopefully that will help just from like a vibe perspective. You got Chase Young. Now that front 4, that front 7 is just nasty. I do think that they needed to add that. So I'm taking the Niners team total over 23. Now, the last 3 away games, the Niners have only scored an average of 21 points per game. But like I said, Debo is back. We're hopeful that Trent Williams is back. He did not practice yesterday. We're hoping that maybe he comes back today. But I think that the bye came at the right time for the 49ers. They could shake off whatever bad juju was happening.
Right.
This is a big game too. It's against the Jags. The Jags have been rolling, and Sunshine over there with his hair is just not someone that you want to overlook. But I believe in this team, Jeff. And I don't know that they win this game. I'm hopeful, but I think we can get over the 23.5.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. Like, the Jaguars are a bend but don't break defense.
Yeah.
So you just need them to bend for 24 plus.
Exactly. And we've got the weapons, and look, I still think Brock Purdy is balling out. I know there's a lot of people like, oh, he turned into a pumpkin in the First of all, interceptions are up across the league. I mean, if you look at it, this is a defensive year. It's like last year interceptions were at an all-time low. Now it's like we've got the lowest scoring games that we've seen in like a decade. Like, all of these totals are very, very low, all of them under 40 for the most part. This is all about defense, and they're picking off quarterbacks left and right. So I think Brock Purdy's going to be okay. Let's go 49ers, but let's stop propping and prop this up. What's a player prop you like for week 10?
Let's go back to Dallas. All right.
Okay.
Tony Pollard is scoring that touchdown.
Yeah.
Anytime TD.
Yeah.
10 rush TDs, 9 games for the Giants. That's not really good, guys. A running back has scored a touchdown against the Giants in all but 1 game this season. Rushing, receiving, whatever you want, they got it for you. The club is open. And the only team that did not score a running back touchdown against them was the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have been involved in a lot of weird offensive games where it's like, what's going on? Like, is somebody, did you pass the sticks to like your little brother on Madden or something, and they're just playing for vibes? But yeah, the Giants, death taxes, and the Giants and the Panthers giving up TDs to running backs. So if you wanna bet it straight or put it in a parlay, Tony Pollard, barring injury, is scoring against the Giants.
Well, I'm already laying the minus 16.5. So Tony Pollard might have 2 for all
him, Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb. Take your pick. Take your pick, but Tony Pollard is my guarantee.
Yeah, and I love Jake Ferguson. I'm big on tight ends just in general. And Dak loves his tight ends in the red zone, so I wouldn't be surprised for a Jake Ferguson as well. I mean, I think everybody's going to be scoring. I think it's like you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, defense gets a touchdown. It's going to be ugly.
They went 40 zip to start the season, and the Giants had their whole team.
I know. and it was all defensive turnovers, and then you got Tommy DeVito, which maybe they're not going to let him throw the ball, but like it's just going to be it's going to be ugly. I'm looking at D-Hop, DeAndre Hopkins, longest reception, over 22.5. That's at minus 109. You just talked about CJ Stroud balling out. He absolutely shred the Buccaneers for, what was it, like 470 yards last week. And again, like 5 touchdowns, broke all kinds of records. But what I found the most interesting part is that 8 of those completions that he had were above 21 yards. And we're looking at D-Hop, one of the greatest wide receivers in the league, to get over that mark. Bucks rank 26th in defensive dropback EPA, 31st in passing yards per game. And D-Hop himself has caught at least 1 pass of 20 plus yards in each of his last 6 games. You're going to tell me that's not happening today? I definitely think that it's going to.
I like it. That sounds like a lock to me.
And then we're on the same page with this next one. And like you said, death, taxes, Christian McCaffrey, touchdowns. It's a lot of juice, but it's hit in like 17 games, 16 games or something crazy. So you're liking this.
Yeah. He's breaking the record. I don't know what the Jags have to do. The Jags are going to have to go all out to play spoiler to break his record. And is it a rushing touchdown record, or is it a touchdown by
just
a running
touchdown.
back? It's just touchdown streak, right?
Just touchdown, yeah.
So now you tell me he doesn't have to rush for it. He can be a receiving touchdown scorer. He's getting it. If they get in the red zone, Purdy is going to feed McCaffrey. They're going to get it out the way so that he can avoid injury trying to force it. They're going to get it out the way, I think. Just get it out the way and then play your game.
Well, one, let me look up the odds for this because what I feel like you're saying is, I think we could ladder this. I think you take Christian McCaffrey for an anytime touchdown. I think you take Christian McCaffrey for 2+ touchdowns because, by the way, in the last 2 games, he's had 2 touchdowns. And then I think you take Christian McCaffrey for the first touchdown because, like you said, get it out of the way. You do a ladder here. I think that's our.
Hey, if you want to get, I like positive chaos, Mox.
Yeah.
If you want to get chaotic, Travis Etienne 2+ touchdowns, Christian McCaffrey 2+ touchdowns. Put the bet in and just enjoy and just let it happen. Spend some discretionary income on that.
Yeah, let it ride. Let it ride. All right, it is time for Mox Lock. My Mox Lock is now going to be this Christian McCaffrey ladder that we have just figured out. Take him for an anytime, take him for 2, and take him for the first. But what is your lock of the weekend? It looks like you're going NBA.
Oh, yeah. Whatever Luka Doncic's over against the Clippers is, I'm taking it. I don't care if it's 40. I don't care if it's 50. He terrorizes the Clippers no matter who's on their team. Ever since they had that little rivalry from the bubble and then in the playoffs, it just seems that when he sees the Los Angeles Clippers jersey, it could be the city jersey, it could be the classic jersey, whatever jersey, he goes off. He averages 32.3 for his career, and he scored 35+ in 4 out of the last 5 games. I might even see if they have ladders for Luka 30, Luka 40, Luka 50, and see what happens, because I think he's been playing at an MVP level. The Dallas offense, they're not guarding anybody. Yep. But their offense looks beautiful. Like, they've incorporated everybody to make a cohesive offense where he's still doing Luka things. And he looks like he's in the best shape. Big cliche. He looks like he's in the best shape of his career. But he actually looks like he got in shape for early in the season, and it shows. So, against the Clippers, whatever the Luka overs on points is, I'm going all the way up.
A lot of post-game beers. Probably
right.
After that one. All right, before we let you go, let's look at Thursday Night Football, which is tonight. It's the Panthers and the Bears. The Bears are laying 4. Bears is the favorite. Is always just a real sketchy situation. And then the total is 39. I know that you like this over already. Anything else that you're liking in this game, or are you just sticking with the total?
I would definitely stick with the total with this. Yeah. I can see Cole Kmet. He scored 2 touchdowns the last day. I know you like the tight ends, right? Yep. I would keep my eye on him. I think Khalil Herbert is back, and he's going to be playing as well. But Cole Kmet, somehow, some way, in fantasy, he's unreliable because he just shows up whenever he wants to. But in the real game, he's been a target for them in the red zone. So I do think keep your eye on him. Well,
first of all, he was on my fantasy team, and I benched him last week, and I was just watching him score, and I'm like, mother.
Every time.
My bench outperformed my starters last week. Somehow I still won, and I don't really know how. The other guy just must have had a terrible game because I was not favored at all. Because I've obviously loaded up on a lot of 49ers, so they were on a bye week last week, so it killed a lot of my production. But yes, I'm on this as well. Cole Kmet for an anytime touchdown, Jeff, plus 240, like you said, 2 touchdowns last week against the Saints, which is a very good defense. He leads the Bears in red zone targets with 10, and 5 of those are actually inside the 10-yard line. So they just love to feed the big man. I love that. I also like Bryce Young for an interception. We talked about how interceptions are up. 7 interceptions, 7 games. And the Bears, for all of their woes, they've picked off the quarterback 6 times this season. So I think we're going to see that from Bryce Young. I also wouldn't be surprised if Secret Bagent Man also throws some interceptions, because I don't believe that Fields is playing yet in this one. But Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show today. It was so fun to catch up with you. And thank you for explaining what the in-season tournament is for me, because that makes a lot of sense. You can follow him on social at Jeff J Says. Also, check out his new podcast on YouTube. It's also Jeff J Says. Anything else you want to tell the people?
Yeah, just thank you for having me on. I love this. I hope I can be back on again, especially as the NBA season starts turning up. Follow me, Jeff J Says, all social. Jeff J Says YouTube channel. Definitely follow us over there. If you love the NBA, if you love sports betting, you love just talking about fun stuff in sports, we're going to be over there doing it, building brick by brick, slowly but surely. But with your support, we'll be broadcast to the masses. So
yes,
definitely thank you for that. And thank you for having me, Mox. This was really dope. I really appreciated it.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. We have to have you back, especially as the NBA gets more into full swing. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.